good evening. Today we're going to see the topic Internet Client Server Applications. Internet Client Server Application under the subject of e-commerce. See, today our content is what is the client server, components, application functions, types of servers, advantages, disadvantages, and differences. So, first of all, before we going into the topic, we know the basic root information regarding client and server. So, regarding client and server, there is a capability to involve this mechanism. The very root thing is a network. Okay, a network is a computer communication system in which the client computers. A web-based client server network is a computer communication system in which client computers. So, like a network architecture in which each computer or process on the network is either a client or a server. See the components of the client, servers, and communicational networks. See, what are all the client server applications? See, the computer applications that use the client server, a model, or an email network like printing to the World Wide Web. So, in such cases, we need to know the access of the protocols, the special set of rules that the endpoints in the telecommunication use when they communicate is called the protocols. Okay. So through the client and server mechanism, the protocols is the important interaction mechanism of the client and server interaction. So what is client? An application that runs on computer rely on servers for files, devices, and processing power. These are all the client's applications. For example, the email client an application that enables you to send and receive the mails. So, what are all the client server applications in internet technology? For example, the client server approaches enables by any general purpose computer to expand its capabilities by utilizing shared resources or other hosts. And popular client server application include email, the World Wide Web, and network printing. So these are all the things under the client server architecture in e-commerce. Next, we move to the server. The client server architecture of the computer network which make client access the remote processes. It request and receive the service from a centralized server to the computer. We mean host computer. Client computers provide an interface to allow a computer user to request server or to display results of server returns. See, the computer or rather processing that images a network in the resources like disk drive, printer, network traffic, and for example, database server, a computer system that processes the database in the servers. So the examples of client server communication is always used whenever we someone get a request or something from the internet. From for example, we would applications like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, maps, or even single games like sample games like Temple Run and so on. See, the components of client server applications are we have three components of a client server application in a simple manner, that is presentation, application, and data storage. These are all the three major components of the client server model. For example, we have a best example of a client server is a email and World Wide Web. These are all the best examples of client server mechanisms. See, the client server the client server network includes the domain name system like DNS, The web browsers and web servers and FTP means file transfer protocol. The most people experience client server networking daily using the computers like smartphones and tablets connected to the internet. See here, the client server application versus the client server application versus and the server side application. So both the mechanism client and server is the simplest form of a server is a mechanism or a program is a software application that waits for incoming the request. How the mechanism is working on it. The client is a machine or program sending a request to the another client or a server in order to take an action. See, a server is an entry points for a multiple clients that will handle their requests. So these are all the most important thing to be know for the client and server mechanisms. These are communication networks. You have a host like one server, we have a n number of hosts, we communicate each other, the network connect client and servers. See, what are all the different types of client and server applications in e-commerce? So we have a n number of client and server applications in e-commerce. In general term, server is a, machine. Server is a machine or a program. We call it as a software application that waits for upcoming request, and a client is a machine or program sending request to another client or a server in order to action. So he is called the simplest form of the server and client mechanism. See, what are the example of a client and server application? Already I said email, network printing, and the World Wide Web. And client server computing, the process takes place or the several on the internet and servers to store or protect data processor request for the client, and in the client it makes a request and format data on the desktop. Application servers, application server functions. Some of the application software functions are separated into three distinct parts. We call it as a client presentation and a server as a database management. In the server application, sometimes it appears application servers or Tomcat, Apache Tomcat, Oracle WebLogic, Glassfish, WebSphere, and Wildfly. These are all the some examples of server applications. So while we using a different types of softwares, we include, and these are all the open source server. Whenever we want to install, we can to install in our personal PC. And application components, the presentation, application logic, and database management.